Good evening, AGCS family, friends, community members, and students. We're so excited to have you back for another evening at the Sunday Book Club.
That's right.
We had a really fantastic week. We had 2 spelling bees, a first grade spelling bee and a second grade spelling bee, and third grade will be happening this coming week. It was so much fun. I got to participate in the first grade spelling bee, and it was amazing to see these students getting up on stage and being confident and working so hard and then being really proud of themselves afterwards. I really thoroughly enjoyed it, and I think everyone who came and was involved had a great time as well.
Yep, I agree. Lots of fun.
And coming this week, we are starting our book tour. Mrs. Johnson and I will be having 2 stops, one at the Parksburg Library at 10 a.m., on Saturday, the 29th. And then we'll be going to Coatesville the same day on the 29th at noon. We're really looking forward to reading on location with everyone. Our Coatesville one is going to be a little bit more, so we'd like for you to RSVP. We're going to be having a book and a craft.
That's right. So if you want to participate in the Coatesville one, you can just call the main office and let them know that you will be there so we can make sure that we have enough craft supplies for everybody who would like to attend. And throughout the month of March, we'll be hitting different libraries. So make sure you check that flyer or the post on our website about where we're going to be throughout the month of March, reading with all of our families and all of the different communities.
That's right. So this week for Black History Month, we highlighted famous authors and illustrators, and one of those is Vashti Harrison. We talked about her earlier this week. We're not going to read this whole book called Little Leaders, Bold Women in Black History, but we're going to highlight a few of those women who really made a big difference in our history.
You said you had a favorite one you wanted to read.
I do. When I was in 4th grade, we always talked about the Revolutionary War, and one of those women we talked a lot about was Phyllis Wheatley. So I think I'd really like for us to talk about Phyllis Wheatley and what she did. So Phyllis Wheatley, circa 1753 to 1784, is when she did a lot of amazing things. She was a poet. Phyllis's literary skills were apparently early on. She published her first story when she was only 14 years old. For anyone, this would be a major feat, but for Phyllis, as a slave, this was truly unique. Her original name, date of birth, and exact birthplace are all unknown. When she was 8 years old, she was taken from her home in Africa and sold to a trader that transported her across the Atlantic to Boston, Massachusetts, aboard a ship named the Phyllis. She was then resold to a man named John Wheatley, who purchased her to be a personal servant for his wife. The Wheatleys soon recognized her intellect and began to nurture it. They taught Phyllis everything from theology to mythology, an education that was rare for a woman and nearly unheard of for a woman of color. With the family backing, she traveled to England to publish her first book, Poems on Various Subjects, Religion and Morals. She was the first African-American woman poet ever to be published. She corresponded with George Washington and the famous French writer and philosopher Voltaire, who called her a master of English verse. Her work was so powerful that abolitionists used it as an example of the intelligence and promise of black people. In 1767, she was emancipated. Emancipated, that's a great word. Emancipated means freed from her slave duty. Unfortunately, she struggled financially and lived in poverty for the rest of her life. She received a great deal of praise during her lifetime and validation from white society. She continued writing, but was not able to find a publisher in America. Her natural talent and body of work lived on her fundamental contributions to American literature. I love Phyllis Wheatley because she actually, in one of the shows we would watch, Liberty Kids, housed lots of family members or African Americans who were trying to come to the North to be safe. So we'll read one more about Harriet Tubman, 1822 to 1913. She was an abolitionist, a nurse, a scout, and a spy. One of 9 children, Harriet was born into slavery under the name Armenia Harriet Ross. Both her parents were West African, hailing from the Ashanti warrior people. While many of her siblings were sold and traded to distant plantations, one good fortune Harriet was to remain united with her parents throughout her youth. When she was 15, Harriet was accidentally hit in the head with an iron weight and fell into a coma for 3 days. Her brain injury resulted in narcolepsy. a permanent disorder that caused her to fall asleep at random times. Fearing her slave owner would eventually discover her injury, she decided to run away to avoid the risk of being sold or traded. After escaping to freedom in 1849, Harriet could have stayed in the North. But now that she knew it was possible to escape, she wanted to return to her family and anyone else she could rescue. Over the course of 11 years, she returned to the South 13 times and led more than 70 men, women, and children to freedom and safety via the secret system called the Underground Railroad. Known as a conductor, Harriet never lost a passenger on her journeys. Even though it was very dangerous, Harriet continued to put her life at risk to save others. It wasn't the last time. During the Civil War, Harriet served as an army nurse and went undercover as a spy for the North. Harriet was always looking to help others. What very little she had, she gave away to others. She lived in poverty most of her life and donated her time, money, and property to people in need. In 2016, the U.S. Treasury announced a historical proposal to change the $20 bill. It would replace the longtime face of Andrew Jackson with Harriet, making her the first woman on the front of any U.S. paper currency. Has that happened yet?
I don't think so.
I'll have to look more into that and see what's going on with that, because that's a very interesting proposal. I'd like to see that come into fruition.
That's right. Yeah, so if you want to look into that this week and you find out information, you can come up to Mrs. Hendrickson and I and talk to us all about it. We'd love to chat with you about it. Yep, so this is another book that's going to be in our library starting in March. So if you want to come in and check that out and take it home, and you and your parents and family members can read throughout the book of other bold women in Black history.
Okay. We sure hope that you had fun with us tonight, and we will see you tomorrow.
Sorry, good night.